world was just, at this point, where we're at like 2021, 2022, we're getting sick and tired of the Meghan and Harry show. Okay, we're tired of it. And this became really apparent and clear when there was a clip of the Oprah Winfrey show, that interview. There was a clip shown at the National TV Awards ceremony in London in September, and there was a resounding booing and hissing when the clip came up. And there was a dispute whether the boos were for the Sussexes or for Oprah for seeking accolades for the interview. Either way, the Sussexes relied on Toya Holness to suffocate any negative voices directed against them. So Toya Holness was their spin doctor at the moment. Now, she's not going to last to the end of the book, but at this point in time, she was the one who tottered out and tried to recreate the narrative. Toya Holness is probably one of the sorriest ambassadors they've had yet. And one of the things that she decided to do that only cements her sorriness was that she decided to recruit in New York a person named Genevieve Roth, who is a founder of Invisible Hand, to promote the couple. Roth was paid to oversee the Sussexes' strategy on storytelling. Do you need a strategy on storytelling? Can't you just tell what happened? Okay, but this Genevieve has been embroiled in her own personal hell for years, since like 2020, right? And she's been over here recrafting the narrative about her own life and about her own self and about her own worth for a long time now. And in 2020, she decided to give an interview to Good Housekeeping magazine. Really? Who even reads up anymore? But she gives this interview, and in the interview, she says that I am rife with internalized racism and unconscious bias. She's married to an African-American man, but she confessed that race is an issue in our marriage because as a white woman of privilege, I have racist tendencies written in at a cellular level. So our marriage is just fraught because I'm a horrible, vicious racist. I chose to marry a black man, but inside, I can say I love him, but my cells say I hate him. Right? But this is the person that has been recruited to help Harry and Meghan and their strategy on storytelling. But what kind of mental patient have they hired? This is a person who, by every measure of her visible existence, would say one thing, that she is not a vicious racist, yet she continues to tell herself that she is. What reliable strategy of storytelling can we expect from this person? In New York's prevailing atmosphere, Roth was helped by Time magazine's editors. Every year, Time, historically among America's most prestigious publications, named the nation's 100 most influential people. And the Sussex staff had worked hard to persuade Time's editors that Harry and Meghan ranked as number one. They were America's number one icon. Just look at us. Don't we seem very American? He's from England and he's a prince and he's in exile. But other than that, we're definitely America's number one icon. Well, they succeeded against all odds, but only because they paid for their nominations. And only because they had to literally bribe people to get them to say a kind word. In the distant past, the nominations would be written by famous political or cultural personality. But the best Time could produce to nominate the Sussexes was Jose Andres, a chef who pioneered the charity World Central Kitchen, also known as WCK. And he was first financed with $25,000 from Archwell. Andreas's operation belied the title. Beyond America, WCK had only opened small kitchens in Haiti, Puerto Rico, and Tonga. So not really sure about this world part of the World Central Kitchen, but whatever. Anyway, he wrote his little glowing nomination. And why anybody cared what this random chef who'd been given $25,000, why did anybody care what he had to say? I'll never know. I mean, it's even with his paltry nomination, were there not any better candidates with better backing? Well, anyway, he comes out and he praises the Sussexes, and he says that the couple were, quote, blessed through birth and talent, but burned by fame. The Duke and Duchess have compassion for people that they don't know. They don't just opine. They run toward this struggle. They give voice to the voiceless through media production. Did somebody write this statement for him? What would he know about giving a voice to the voiceless through media production? What media production has he even seen to validate that statement? Critics might question associating the Sussexes with struggle, But Claire and Nina Hallworth, famous for creating the image of Jennifer Aniston in 2019, were hired to produce the perfect image for the Sussex's cover photo. So against all odds, they were selected as America's #1 icon, even though the only person they had to back them was this Jose Andres. The stylists, and we all remember this picture that the stylists put together for Harry and Meghan, all right? It was the most pitiful, sorriest, clunkiest photo, quite frankly. She didn't look great. He looked stupid. He's positioned in the background, all in black. He's standing behind Meghan, dressed in white. Meghan had clearly had a change of heart about the stylists. 3 years earlier, she had told Knopf that she didn't use stylists, because it was personally frustrating for her to hear the word stylist, since that was the only thing she had any control over, was her personal style. But in this instance, she's there to let Claire and Nina Hallworth help her out. Claire and Nina, I'm disappointed. This is the best you could do. Meghan, the outfit was not flattering to Meghan. I remember thinking that it made her look like she doesn't need to be in one color. And I'm not trying to be petty. Really, we all have specific body shapes, and we can either dress them so that they look one way, and we can dress them so that they look another. As I've mentioned many's the time, I'm very pear-shaped. I know that about myself, so I wouldn't wear something that would accentuate that in a really negative way, right? I would want to wear something that would accentuate my waist size versus my hip size, right? Well, to put Meghan all in one color doesn't help bring out maybe her better features. And so she just looked like a great big white log standing there. And then Harry in the background timidly "Can I come out, Mummy? Is it all right? Is it okay if I peek out, wave at the camera?" He looks stupid. And, the meme went around and around that he looked like a stylist showing her new layers, because he literally was standing behind her "Let's look at your hair, let's look at you," Time magazine was the prelude for the Sussex's next big event, a mini royal 3-day tour of New York starting on the 22nd of September. Now, you guys, as I was reading about this, flabbergasted is what I was. Because why in the world are they doing a mini royal tour? They are not royals. Why are we even giving them a tiny bit of that kind of attention? Who are they representing? If people come over to America on a royal tour, if say William and Catherine want to come, they are representing the Queen in the palace, right? That's why we allow it. That's why we pay for all their security and everything like this. Why in the world do we have two nobodies getting the royal tour? If any couple in Hollywood decided that they wanted to show up in New York and just kind of go around, we're not going to do any interviews. No, this is not interviews. Okay, this photographs only. And then New York City is expected to provide police escorts everywhere, and all the cameras clicking away, and they're seen going up to a school and going up to the 9/11 memorial and walking down the street. It's why though? For whose benefit? Who it's if that's William and Catherine, it's for the benefit of the palace. It's diplomatic purposes, but there's no purpose behind letting Harry and Meghan act like this. So why did anybody agree to this? Anyway, they want to play royals. And again, like I said, the media was restricted to just photographs and no interviews. Based at the Carlisle, Princess Diana's favorite hotel, where else would they stay? The Sussexes were assured by the city's power brokers of maximum security. Their SUV convoy would be surrounded by police motorcyclists, sealing off roads as they drove across Manhattan. Exactly why? Why was this allowed? Sealing off roads, Manhattan, for a couple of nobodies? And why are the taxpayers having to let Harry and Meghan continue to cosplay that they're important royals? They aren't. Why are we financing this? Who allowed this? On the first visit early on Thursday morning to the Twin Towers Observatory, they were welcomed by Bill de Blasio, New York's mayor, and the state governor, Kathy Hochul. Treated as members of the British royal family, they were escorted to the 9/11 memorial and on the 102nd floor of the Freedom Tower of the World Trade Center. After paying their respects, they walked from the building to their police-guarded convoy. Even that, why are you doing that? Why do you need to pay respects here at this monument? And why do we all have to watch you pay respects? So what exactly does that mean? Did you just go out and you're okay, let's go? If you want to do that, fine. If you want to go and just like take a minute to remember the people whose lives were lost in that tragic terrorist attack, by all means, take some time to think about the holiness and the sacredness of all those lives that were lost and all of those souls that were lost to us that day. Like, if you want to do that, fine. But to take a camera crew with you is so crude and vulgar. It's vulgar. It's like, it's like there's some things that are just private. You know what I mean? And I think that paying respects to the fallen I feel like that's pretty private, because it's not you shouldn't be getting any accolades for caring for others. That should just be who you are as a mature adult. You look for others and you look for opportunities to care for others, right? And sometimes that can include caring for the people who we've lost, right? But that's not something to take a picture of. It's just so gross when people need praise and adoration for doing the things that decent human beings would just do. All right. So they finished getting their accolades for caring about the people at 9/11. Onlookers were surprised that Meghan was wearing a turtleneck and thick overcoat despite the 80-degree humid weather. Yeah, I mean, they might have gone in September, but that didn't mean it felt like September, right? Dress for what's happening. Over the 3 days, she would continue to wear heavy winter clothes, pieces by Armani, Loro Piana, and Max Mara over Valentino dresses. Accessories were Valentino, Cartier, and Manolo Blahnik. As Meghan walked with Harry, they were overheard on a microphone that Harry was wearing for the Netflix documentary. They were speaking in strained voices, where they discussed a plan to take Lilibet to Britain for her baptism, but of course that did not happen. Could it be because Lilibet does not exist? Now, I know that's a conspiracy theory, and I don't know that I even believe it, but it is odd that we never see the child. What's going to happen when those kids have to go to school? I was like, for the longest, like, you guys need to quit it with all this like fake pregnancy stuff. Okay, she was pregnant. But the longer I look into who Harry and Meghan are as people and the scams that they're running, and like as this book finishes off, like we find out about just the financial scheming that's going on, it wouldn't even, like, I'm past the point of disbelieving that they could have fabricated not only the pregnancies, but also having the children in the first place. Where are they? Meghan is so narcissistic that if she had kids, we'd be seeing those kids everywhere. Okay, she'd be posting pictures of her and the kids constantly. She'd be like looking for people to notice her and like what a good mother she is. I mean, we would see that all of the time. She does not possess the capability of keeping those children private. She just doesn't have it in her. So for us to believe that here she's had these kids these many years and we've never seen hide nor hair because she cares so much about their privacy, that's a bunch of bullshit. Okay, well, after they get done capering around in ridiculous clothes that are completely out of season, and the only thing I can think is that she'd been paid by these various people to wear those heavy clothes as kind of like for the fall line, you know, like let her be a walking advertisement for the fall. So she had to wear these heavy coats despite the 80-degree humid weather. That is the only reason why she could have possibly been wearing those clothes. After they get done with that, they stop at the UN building to meet America's ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas Grenfield. And then to discuss about COVID, the COVID vaccine with Chelsea Clinton at the offices of the World Health Organization, which included the virtual appearance of the WHO's Director General. Okay, why though? I mean, what was Harry going to be over there being like, oh, well, now that I'm here, you guys will be able to figure out this whole vaccine thing. Should we have boosters or not? How many boosters should we get? Now that I'm here, we can figure it out. The following day, the couple visited the Mahalia Jackson Elementary School in Harlem. This is so cringy, y'all. So Meghan was filmed reading The Bench to a class of children. I bet they were bored to tears. Reporters were told that the Sussexes had donated a washing and drying machine, 2 garden boxes filled with vegetables and herbs, and copies of her book. Oh, Whoopi, how generous. Y'all, seriously, out of all of the largesse that they have, the best they could do is donate a washing and drying machine. Only 2 garden boxes with vegetables and herbs. 2 garden boxes, how's that going to help the kids? Like, if they're supposed to be gardening and stuff, like, what if they had built a garden at the school? Like, that is the level at which they should be functioning. A couple of garden boxes, and what are the dimensions of the garden boxes? I don't know. But, what? And then copies of her book? This is the best they could do? They have millions of dollars. but all they can do is chuck an old washer and dryer, at the poor kids in Harlem, and here's some vegetables, Hope y'all know what to do with this. But what they were criticized for was not the garden boxes and the washing and drying machine, but for giving those kids copies of the book. Critics questioned whether the school children from broken homes would welcome a narrative of a happy family and whether Megan's $15,000 outfit was appropriate. Okay, well, I think we can all agree that the $15,000 outfit's ridiculous. Just go meet with the kids and be like a nice, normal person. But I don't agree with this critique that school children from broken homes have to be bitter about a book about a happy family. See, that's broken thinking. Because they might come from broken homes, then they always have to read books and marinate in literature that is a reflection of them. God forbid it. I mean, I don't want to read books about, the worst things about my life, and that, like, even when I read a book, I can't even ascend to something higher. So critics, why don't you shut it? See, that's part of what our culture's problem is with books, is that we think literature has to reflect our circumstances. Rather than being inspired by literature, it has to only be at our level or worse. Because God forbid I feel bad about a book I read where somebody's better off than I am in it. Oh my gosh, why can't we think? What's wrong with our country? Okay, after that they went and ate some Southern fried chicken and waffles at Melba, a Harlem's comfort food restaurant. By the way, while they're at Melba's, they pledged $25,000 for the restaurant's COVID relief fund. But again, pledged or given? We may never know. The highlight of the tour was on Saturday afternoon. In front of a 60,000 person crowd in Central Park, a Global Citizen live concert promoted vaccine equality. So I guess Harry was just making the rounds of these live concerts talking about vaccine equality, because this is about the 5th time I've read about him showing up. The Sussexes were cheered for urging manufacturers to donate free vaccines to poor countries. He comes out saying the ultra-wealthy pharmaceutical companies are not sharing the recipes to make them. Recipes is the word he used. Adopting Meghan's language, he continued, when we start making decisions through that lens, every single person deserves equal access to the vaccine. None of the audience appeared to question how Harry, trading on his inherited title and inherited wealth, was qualified to launch a socialistic campaign. Well, and I also think too, it's like I'm confused by who was being denied the vaccine if they wanted it. If you wanted the vaccine, people were more than willing to jab you with it. I mean, you could go to any place and they give it to you. Who was being denied this? The real problem is that people didn't want it, and the government was annoyed because they were saying, but you have to have it, All these other countries, let me tell you, Pfizer would have been more than happy to package up the vaccines and take it to another country. They probably just couldn't get paid what they wanted for it. Before the concert ended, the couple was driven to Teterboro Airport. As they flew on their private jet back to Santa Barbara, the COP26 climate summit was meeting in Glasgow. They weren't there for it, but Archwell was only willing to speak about them at the conference, saying that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have a long-standing commitment to the planet. Archwell announced that the Sussexes would be net zero by 2030 and be offsetting their carbon footprint. What though? Like, what does that even mean? Okay, like, I don't know a lot of things about a lot of things, okay? But I've never been quite certain about what exactly is this net zero by 2030 offsetting carbon footprint. Like, how though? What does that mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what changes are you planning to make so that everything that you've done thus far will completely offset your carbon footprint? I'm not seeing a change in lifestyle. I'm not seeing a change in the number of times you're jetting across the country. Like, what are you talking about? I might not be the sharpest crown in the box, but I can tell that you're saying things but not giving me clear answers. How exactly are you planning to make this a reality? If you would only just stop flying on these private jets, you could do a whole lot for the planet. I mean, according to these people's standards. 1 month later, the Sussexes returned to New York by private jet to star in a gala for veterans. Walking to the hall dressed in a stunning red designer dress, Meghan was hailed by the New York Times as an A-list celebrity and social activist. Well, I guess we were reading different news, because that's not what I read when everybody saw her in that, quote, stunning red designer dress. All I heard were people saying, why didn't somebody help her choose something that was more flattering? The same newspaper invited the Duchess of Sussex to appear on a platform with Melody Hobson, the charity of Starbucks, co-chief executive of an investment fund, and the wife of Star Wars director George Lucas. By the way, her neighbor. Together, they urged the Biden administration to pay for family leave as a humanitarian issue. On that same day, at a Rewired conference, Harry attacked the British media for creating news with a vested interest to provoke Meghan's untimely death. The incentives for publishing are not necessarily aligned with the incentives of truth. Misinformation is a global humanitarian crisis. Don't these people ever get tired of saying the same stupid words? Like, I'd be bored of myself. Their two speeches in New York coincided with the opening of the appeal court hearing of Meghan's case against the Mail on Sunday.